Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our special webinar on Iceland with Discover the World. My name is William Gray. I'm a travel writer and photographer, and I've worked with Discover the World for many years, and I've been lucky enough to visit Iceland with them on several occasions. Firstly, on behalf of everybody at Discover the World, thank you for your support and for your continued interest and enthusiasm for visiting Iceland. Like you, I'm sure we just can't wait to get back to this amazing destination. Following the government's announcement of the traffic light system for overseas holidays, it's fantastic news, isn't it, that Iceland was one of the first countries to be given the green light. As the world's leading Iceland specialist with 38 years experience, Discover the World has been working closely with its local partners to support the return of tourism. And as well as inspiring you to visit Iceland, this webinar is all about helping you plan your holiday with confidence. We'll be exploring several exciting itineraries, including some new ones that are particularly good value this summer. And we'll also give you ideas if you're thinking about an autumn or winter holiday. I'll also explain how Discover the World Flexibility Promise provides that all-important peace of mind and financial security when booking your holiday. Of course, we also have our panel of travel experts to answer your questions towards the end of the evening, and I'm delighted just to introduce them now to you. Joining us from Iceland, I'm delighted to welcome Sally Hugson. Born and raised on a farm in South Iceland, Sally is the owner of South Coast Adventure, one of the country's leading super Jeep tour operators. And he'll be telling us more about these amazing off-road vehicles and the incredible places they can take you, including the site of the new volcanic eruption that began in southwest Iceland in March. More about that later. Also delighted to welcome Cathy Harlow. Cathy's passion for Iceland started with childhood family holidays. Later, she moved there, studying Icelandic at university and qualifying to work as a guide back in 1987. And for the last 33 years, Cathy has been guiding group tours to Iceland and Greenland for Discover the World. And she's showing no sign of letting go of what she describes as the best job in the world. I tend to agree with her on that. And finally, delighted to welcome Alex. Alex Minnis has been working at Discover the World for 11 years and heads up the Nordic team. His first day at work coincided with the famous eruption of Eyjafjallajökull in 2010, and he's been obsessed with the land of fire and ice ever since. And that includes Iceland's legendary movie scene. Alex has visited filming locations right across the country, including for Fortitude, Game of Thrones, and Trapped. Now, please do send in your questions for our panel using the live chat, which you should see on your screen. We'll try and get through as many as possible. And thank you very much if you've already sent in a question. We've had a great response, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. But if we don't manage to answer your question, please don't worry, because we'll be sending a follow-up email covering everything that's asked this evening. You can also find out more information online at discovertheworld.com. which you can see on the screen there, or by talking to one of our travel specialists. Don't forget, you can now easily arrange a virtual appointment by video call to discuss your holiday plans. Now, to give you an idea of the format for this evening, I'll be spending the next 40 minutes or so delving into the wonders of Iceland. We'll then go to our panel for 30 minutes of questions before wrapping things up at around 7:15. To start with, though, let me just give you some background to Discover the World. As I mentioned earlier, they've been arranging holidays to Iceland for 38 years. They were the world's first tour operator to offer self-drive itineraries there, as well as river rafting, snowmobiling, and super Jeep safaris. And they actually practically invented whale watching in the country back in 1993. They also launched school trips there, and they run a very successful education program now. And they were the first UK tour operator to offer dedicated Northern Lights holidays to the country. And I mention all that because I think it's quite rare to find an independent travel operator these days with that kind of heritage. And whenever I'm dealing with Discover the World team, the Iceland team, I always get the feeling that I'm talking to a real expert, someone who's been there and genuinely knows the place inside out. And I think that kind of passion and first-hand advice counts for an awful lot these days when there's so much online that you're not sure whether to trust or not. Also, in these unprecedented days of uncertainty in the travel world, Discover the World's flexibility promise offers complete confidence should you need to change your plans. You can read full details on the website, but the key points I'm just going to run through are you receive a full refund, not a credit note, on any holidays which can't operate due to government restrictions. You can change your travel plans up to 7 days prior to departure. You can cancel up to 14 days prior to travel, as long as you book before the 30th of June and travel before the 30th of November, and receive a full refund of all recoverable costs, including your deposit. Discover the World can also recommend a comprehensive travel insurance policy, which provides extensive COVID-19 cover. Rest assured, you will be well looked after. Never has Discover the World's commitment to strong customer service been so important as it is now. And that's not all. You may have heard news reports predicting that holiday prices will skyrocket this summer. Well, that's not the case with Discover the World, actually. In fact, they're doing the opposite, offering savings of up to £370 per person on their Iceland itineraries. That includes new holidays like the Reykjanes Peninsula and Volcano Explorer, where you can visit the amazing new eruption site. This picture was taken quite recently by Ragnar Sigurdsson. And as I said earlier, we'll cover this in more detail in a little bit with some amazing video footage that Ragnar has taken as well. There are also other special offers available I just wanted to mention, such as a stay 3 nights, pay for 2 at selected properties, and complimentary 3-course dinners when you spend 2 nights or more at Hotel Rangau. Again, we'll be popping in there a little later on. So, what is so special about Iceland? Why are we so desperate to return or take our first steps in the land of fire and ice? Well, hopefully the next 60 seconds just tries to sum it up. If I could use only one word to describe Iceland, though, I think it would be dynamic. Take the light, for example. It's constantly changing. Sunset here making the horsetail plume of Seljalandsfoss on the south coast glow a rich gold colour. To the more subtle tones here, sea mist sandwiched between Viennetta-striped mountains and summer meadows. If you're a photographer, Iceland and its quality of light will make you very happy indeed. But it's also dynamic in its very nature, volcanic rock versus ice versus sea, a continuous battle between land and sea reshaping the country. You see it here at Jökulsárlón, a lagoon of icebergs shed from one of the island's ice caps. Iceland rose above the surface of the Atlantic around 18 million years ago. It's been growing ever since, about 5 centimeters a year, and is now the world's 18th largest island. Here's the newest bit. Lava flowing from Fagradalsfjall volcano, which started erupting in March this year on the Reykjanes Peninsula near the capital Reykjavik. This amazing footage was taken by Ragnar Sigurdsson and shows a new landscape being forged. But just as volcanoes build Iceland, the North Atlantic gnaws away at it. The result? Black sand beaches stretching as far as the eye can see, towering sea cliffs, some of Europe's tallest, and strange coastal features, many like this one steeped in folklore about petrified trolls and elves and giants. The coast, rich and turbulent, right in the path of the Gulf Stream, is a real magnet to wildlife in Iceland, everything from Arctic terns like this one to humpback whales. If you love puffins, Iceland is one of the best places in the world to see them, huge colonies. The interior, Iceland's volcanic heart, is perhaps the most dynamic of all. This is Thorsmork, a hidden valley and breathtaking location for hiking and four-wheel drive super jeep safaris, snaking between volcanoes and fording glacial rivers, not a building in sight. The relationship between people and the land and how they farm, how they fish, how they harness natural energy or horsepower is equally exciting and dynamic. The seasons too. Iceland is definitely not a once-in-a-lifetime place to visit. You have to go twice to experience summer for the midnight sun and autumn or winter for the northern lights. It's a year-round destination. If summer seems to have been a long time coming, you can make the most of it in Iceland. From May to August, there's 24-hour daylight. On the 21st of June, the longest day of the year, the sun sets in Reykjavik just after midnight and rises again before 3 a.m. Head north to Akureyri up on the north coast, a whisker below the Arctic Circle, and you're in prime position for witnessing the midnight sun in all its glory. Long hours of daylight continue well into August and September. And don't forget, even in midsummer, you can experience winter in Iceland because the ice caps there are perpetual. They're all year round. So in the middle of summer, you can still go snowmobiling and glacier walking. Just to recap on the highlights of summer, long days, midnight sun in the north. It's perfect conditions for hiking, self-drive and other activities. It's peak season for whale watching from May to September with species like humpback whales. The interior opens up from late June through to mid-September for four-wheel drive vehicles. And the seabird colonies are really buzzing with puffins, guillemots, fulmars, kittiwakes, and other species. Temperatures can reach 20 to 25 degrees in July, staying mild right through to September. But the best way to describe the weather is, you guessed it, dynamic. 1 minute, you could be basking in warm sunshine, and the next moment you're popping on a jacket for a blustery walk along the coast. Let's just have a quick look at the other seasons and some of the highlights there. Autumn is a little bit quieter following summer, and the tundra turns beautiful golden colors. The lava fields covered in moss turn lovely yellows and golds. It's berry harvesting season. All the hotels and restaurants are serving dishes with lots of lovely local produce. It's a beautiful month, particularly September for a self-drive. And the Northern Lights can be visible from as early as late August. I've seen them on the south coast on the 30th of August. Winter, that's prime season, of course, for Northern Lights watching. And don't worry, we'll be covering the Northern Lights in a lot more detail later. It's orca watching time in West Iceland when pods of orcas gather off the west coast there to feed on overwintering shoals of herring. Cathy will be telling us a lot more about that later as well. She's a guide on our trips for that holiday. Self-drive is still definitely possible, especially in the south and west where the Gulf Stream gives that warming influence in that corner of Iceland. It's an ideal time for a short break, snuggled up in a country hotel around an open fire, but the interior is closed except to guided four-wheel drive super jeep tours. Then just a quick look at spring. That's when we have the lengthening days and the warmer weather, self-drive holidays, perfect time for that. It's a quieter period before the busy summer. The spring equinox actually marks a peak in Northern Lights activity. And of course, all the birds, particularly the seabirds and the waders, such as puffins and golden plovers, arrive in Iceland to start their nesting season. There's a great reason to visit Iceland really at any time of the year. I'm going to show you some of the country's highlights now and some self-drive routes and holiday ideas. But first, it's obviously really important to put all of this into context of travel this summer. Now, it's important to remember that all the regulations, the restrictions and advice are constantly changing. So I would really recommend you keep checking the Discover the World website for the latest information, including links to the UK and Iceland government travel advice, and as well as FCDO and NHS guidance. Iceland has been widely recognized and praised for its successful response to COVID-19, controlling the virus with large-scale testing, contact tracing, and early quarantine and isolation measures. Being an island helped. Having the lowest population density in Europe, of course, helped too. And as the country reopens for tourism, Iceland's sparsely populated, wide-open landscapes make it particularly appealing for those in search of natural social isolation, social distancing. There's detailed travel advice on the Discover the World website, including answers to the most frequently asked questions, covering everything you need to know about planning your trip to Iceland. And they'll be constantly updated. And of course, if you're in any doubt about something regarding your trip, just feel free to call one of the Iceland travel specialists who really have their finger on the pulse and know the very latest information. The key points, though, are you do not need to do a PCR test before you travel to Iceland. On arrival in Iceland, all passengers have a free COVID test. You do need to remain in your accommodation on your first night until you receive your result. If you receive no message within the next 24 hours, your test is negative. Now, if you've either been fully vaccinated against COVID or you have a certificate of previous COVID infection, then you do not need to quarantine once you've received your arrival test results. When you return home, you do not need to self-isolate. All that's required is you do an antigen test up to 3 days before leaving Iceland. You can buy one from a UK government-approved supplier to take with you. You also need to take a PCR test on day 2 of your arrival back in the UK. Discover the World will cover up to 50% of the cost of these 2 tests, up to the value of £50 per person. Now, it's expected that the Iceland government could further ease their entry requirements from June onwards. So as I said earlier, please do keep an eye on the Discover the World website for the latest updates and developments. Iceland Air will begin increasing the number of flights, weekly flights between the UK and Iceland from June, building back up to their full schedule by July with flights from Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester and Glasgow. There's also a new airline called Play, offering flights from Stansted 4 days a week from the 24th of June, and EasyJet will be operating twice weekly flights from Gatwick from the end of June. Just to give you an idea of what to expect on the flight to Iceland, I'm going to play you a 2-minute video from Iceland Air. So you can see that a lot of precautions and systems have been put in place to help ensure your safety and the safety of others on the journey to and from Keflavik Airport shown here. Now let's look at the bit in between. You only have to glance at a map of Iceland, I think, to really feel your wanderlust stirring. It's intriguing, isn't it? Convoluted coastline with all its ins and outs, the west fjords jutting into the Atlantic up in the west there like a sea fan snagged in an ocean current. And you can't miss that big empty space in the middle, a few ice caps splodged across a grainy canvas of volcanic plains. Let's add the road network, the main road network, and a few things immediately strike you. The middle bit, the interior or the highlands, has no surface roads at all, just gravel tracks accessible by four-wheel drive vehicles during summer. Iceland only has a population of around 360,000, with around 2/3 in the Reykjavik area and surrounding towns down there in the southwest. There's potential in this corner of Iceland for smaller circuits and shorter breaks. Then if you look at north of Reykjavik, up onto the west side of Iceland, you'll notice two intriguing peninsulas jutting out into the North Atlantic, the Snæfellsnes and the West Fjords. Those are two great locations for getting more off the beaten track in stunning coastal scenery. And of course, you can't help but notice that there's a road that goes all the way around Iceland, the Ring Road or Route 1, raising the tantalizing prospect of going full circle. Discover the World has a large portfolio of Iceland holidays, but this evening we're going to be focusing on self-drives. If you love exploring beautiful places, experiencing the thrill of the open road, freedom of a touring holiday and the flexibility that comes with it, Iceland, I think, is definitely one of the world's great self-drive destinations. The road system is excellent. It's well made, it's well maintained. Icelandic road builders have almost made it an art form, arrowing roads towards volcanoes and spectacular ice caps and dragon-back fjords and waterfalls. And in summer, you've got pretty much 24 hours of daylight to really make the most of the time there to explore it. Self-drive in Iceland is very straightforward. You simply drive from one amazing spot to the next, joining the dots between a succession of small, friendly countryside or coastal hotels. Discover the World enhance the whole self-drive experience by giving you their iDiscover app. Free to download, this clever digital travel guide is fully interactive, allowing you to embellish your itinerary as you go along, browsing a directory of scenic wonders, must-see sites, hidden gems, activities, places to eat. You can even use it to find the nearest petrol station or that night's aurora borealis forecast or the weather forecast. It's really useful. You've seen what the roads are like. A regular car is fine for most itineraries. Here's a selection of the sort of cars you can expect to hire. Two-wheel drive Golf up there in the top left, to an all-wheel drive Skoda Octavia, top right. But if you want to go off-road and tackle the tracks that cross the interior of Iceland, then you'll need a four-wheel drive, like the Land Cruiser down there in the bottom right. So let's look at a few ideas for some great Iceland self-drives. If you're looking for a relaxing summer break in Iceland this year, staying in a stylish country hotel surrounded by miles of empty, peaceful countryside, then take a look at the summer nights at Rangá holiday in the southwest corner of Iceland. Rangá is one of Iceland's leading hotels and a Discover the World favorite. There's such a strong, long-standing partnership here that you can be confident not only of a friendly welcome, but also a level of care and attention to detail that I think we'll all be needing when we start traveling again. Let me try and give you a flavor of what it's like to stay here. Actually, flavor is not a bad place to start. I've been lucky enough to stay at Rangá one or two times, and fine dining is definitely one of the highlights. I remember the wild mushroom soup and lamb fillet, and the seafood is just amazing. This is the hotel I mentioned earlier, where if you book 2 nights or more, you receive complimentary pre-dinner drinks, 3-course dinners and breakfasts. It's just a 90-minute drive from Reykjavik. The hotel looks out across a wild salmon fishing river in one direction, and then out the other, you see the perfect cone of the Mount Hekla volcano. Inside, it's rustic, cozy, luxurious. But it's a sign of the hotel's individuality that 8 of its 52 rooms are extravagant suites themed after each of the continents. So if you've been desperate to start traveling again, you can actually combine Iceland with Africa, Asia, or Antarctica in one holiday. Another signature feature of Hotel Rangau are its outdoor hot tubs. As I'm sure many of you know, geothermal pampering is pretty much compulsory when you go on holiday in Iceland. And we'll be looking at iconic spas like the amazing new Sky Lagoon a little later on. But just imagine sinking into one of these hot tubs and watching a long midsummer sunset. Around this time of year, the southwest corner of Iceland basks in the glow of the midnight sun. You can see the midnight sun from the north coast, which I believe Siley is actually at. So we're going to have a little look out of his window when we join him later on this evening. But down here in the southwest corner of Iceland, summer brings long, almost endless days when you can fit in as much activity as you want. Drag yourself from the hot tubs, and Hotel Rangau has this amazing state-of-the-art professional telescope system, including a solar telescope where you can observe details of the sun. And of course, during the winter months, from around the autumn equinox onwards, Hotel Rangau's telescope is brilliant for gazing at the northern lights, not to mention planets, Venus, the rings of Saturn, or even distant nebulae and star clusters. The summer nights at Rangau holiday is available as a 3, 5, or 7-day itinerary. That's because the hotel is perfectly located for exploring nearby natural wonders in your own hire car or as part of an organized day tour. You could easily fill a week. You could, for example, take a full-day super jeep safari with South Coast Adventure to Thorsmork, deep in the interior. Or here's another South Coast super jeep adventure up onto the glacier of Eyjafjallajökull. Pronounced it twice in a row. I'm quite pleased with myself for that. For breathtaking views across the south coast and out towards the Western Islands. A ferry trip to this volcanic archipelago also makes an excellent day trip on its own. It's got fascinating geology, very volcanically rich, and it's also the site of one of Iceland's biggest puffin colonies and the new beluga whale sanctuary, which you might have seen on television in recent months. Or, of course, it's a very easy matter just to hop in your hire car, and a short drive from Hotel Rangau, you have this beautiful Seljalandsfoss waterfall that we saw earlier. You can use your iDiscover app, though, to find less well-known hidden gems, such as this waterfall, Gljúfrafoss, just 20 minutes away from Seljalandsfoss, but often missed by many tourists because they don't have that insider information. Further down the road along the south coast is this big show-off, mighty Skogafoss, where you can walk through rainbows right up to this incredible curtain of water or climb the cliffs to a viewing platform near the top of the falls. Not far from these waterfalls is the Lava Center, which I really recommend. It has everything from an earthquake simulator and lava corridors, huge models of Iceland's volcanic core, and a large rooftop platform where you can actually get panoramic views of 5 volcanoes, including Katla and Hekla. But I particularly love this room. It's an interactive room where you can use hand signals to initiate virtual volcanic eruptions with each of these 5 volcanoes. Further along the coast, the south coast, at Skaftafell, you can hike into the fringes of the incredible Vatnajökull wilderness. This is a vast national park, about the size of North Yorkshire. Ice on the ice cap reaches depths of 950 meters. It literally smothers several active volcanoes. And what you can see here, though, is one of the so-called outlet glaciers that flow from the ice cap, which is actually hidden behind the mountains in this picture. And that all sets the scene for something really quite extraordinary. The glaciers have their snouts in coastal lagoons, and here at Jökulsárlón, they carve icebergs, thousands of them, into the water. And you can drive along the coast and simply step out of your car and look at this scene, looking inland, across the iceberg lagoon to the Vatnajökull ice cap you can see there in the distance. A 300-kilometer loop east of Reykjavik, the famous Golden Circle, rounds up 3 of Iceland's best-known natural wonders, Gullfoss, or Golden Falls, is one of Iceland's most iconic waterfalls with its twin cascades. So the first one there tumbling 11 meters, and the second one plunges another 21 meters into this hidden canyon filled with mist. It really is a beautiful sight. Also on the Golden Circle is Finnvetlia National Park, a World Heritage Site. It's where Iceland's ancient open-air assembly, the world's oldest existing parliament, first met in the year 930 AD. But it's also a shrine to plate tectonics. This is a canyon you can see here that's actually been created by rifting of the mid-Atlantic ridge that goes straight through Iceland. You have North American plate on one side and the Eurasian plate on the other. You can literally walk between continents in this place and also in one or two other sites in Iceland too. Here's another watery wonder on the Golden Circle. Strokkur is one of the world's most obliging geysers, erupting every 6 minutes or so, spouting scalding water up to 40 meters into the air, like a steaming exclamation mark. Incredible sight any time of year. Let's look at an alternative option now for a short break in the southwest, visiting the Reykjanes Peninsula, where recently all eyes have been on the spectacular eruption that's been taking place here since March. Now, there's a brand new holiday from Discover the World called the Reykjanes Peninsula and Volcano Explorer. 3-night self-drive. And I should mention at this point that these are all fully these holidays can all be fully tailor-made to expand and add things as much as you want to. So don't be constrained to the fact that this is just 3 nights. You can add to it however you want to. But this holiday includes a fantastic super jeep tour to the eruption site with South Coast Adventure. And it really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Saili, one of our expert panelists who you're going to meet later on, he very kindly sent us this wonderful photograph of him and his family at the Fagradalsfjall volcano recently. Isn't that just amazing? I mean, here's proof, if you need it, that Iceland is family friendly for starters, but just look at what's happening behind there. Volcano erupting still, the fresh magma flow, steaming, hot. It's active now. It's going to continue for many months to come, and we're going to find out more about that. And I'm sure many of you will have questions to ask Saili about the eruption. Do please send them in. This is the first active volcano in the Reykjanes UNESCO Global Geopark for about 800 years. So it's quite special. It started erupting on 19th of March with multiple fissures oozing lava and reshaping the landscape. And even when the eruption dies down, it's going to be a fascinating place to visit. A super jeep tour with South Coast Adventure is included in this holiday, with a chance to hike right up to the lava flows. You'll also visit other hot spots on the peninsula, such as bubbling mud pools, hot springs, and the bridge between 2 continents, where you can leap from North America to Eurasia. For a bird's eye view, Discover the World can also arrange a helicopter flight, which gives you a fantastic perspective on the new lava flows and the eruption site. You'll be based at the Northern Light Inn, where you're close to the Golden Circle, for example, for a day's touring, and you're literally right next door to the Blue Lagoon, where you have an opportunity, if you choose, to relax in the warm, milky blue waters of this world-famous geothermal pool. Of course, also in the southwest corner of Iceland, you'll find the capital, Reykjavik. Definitely worth visiting for its cathedral, museums, restaurants, and shops. It's a real buzzing, vibrant city. And Discover the World can easily tailor-make your holiday to include a night or two here at the beginning or end of your holiday, for example. Which might sound particularly appealing this summer with the opening of the new Sky Lagoon. Just look at this. I mean, this is on my wish list when I next go back to Iceland. It's located just outside Reykjavik. It's an amazing 70-meter long infinity pool right on the edge of the ocean, geothermally heated at a constant 38 to 40 degrees and surrounded by cliffs and waterfalls. Just imagine ordering a cocktail from the swim-up bar, watching seabirds gliding past. You can actually see the smoke and steam rising from the new eruption in the distance as well. And the lagoon also has a spa where you can try traditional 7-step ritual for a full wellness experience. On a clear day, you can also gaze north from the dreamy Sky Lagoon and see a snow-capped volcano across the bay. It's called Snæfellsjökull, and it's right at the tip of another peninsula jutting out of West Iceland. Now, it's a 2-hour drive north of Reykjavik, the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, and it features in a new 7-night self-drive, Wonders of the Southwest, combining the spectacular area with the south coast, splitting your time between Hotel Rangá, which we looked at earlier, and another Discover the World favorite, Hotel Húsafell. This is a bit of a contrast to Hotel Rangá, which I think sort of indicates the range of types of accommodation you can experience and enjoy in Iceland, where Rangá is rustic and sort of ranch style. Hotel Húsafell is modern, very contemporary, very stylish, bright interiors and sculptures and artwork by local artists. Also has this fabulous restaurant with picture windows looking out onto the mountains surrounding it. It's also a superb base for exploring the natural wonders of West Iceland. And again, I should mention, if you travel before the end of June or from September until the end of next May, you can take advantage of a special offer to stay 3 nights here and pay for only 2. Now, speaking of the natural wonders near Hotel Húsafell, this is one of my favorites. It's called Hraunfossa, or the Lava Falls, where beautiful clear spring water emerges from several points along this ancient lava flow, then seeps out into the river, creating this amazing sort of marbled effect all the way down this shallow gorge here. Really breathtaking place to visit right near the hotel. It's also an excellent base for several unique tours. This is another of my favorites. It's called Into the Glacier. You travel by 8-wheel drive vehicle, a converted NATO missile launcher, up onto the top of the Langjökull ice cap, just inland from Hotel Húsafell. And then you walk on foot into a tunnel that's being man-made, 500 meters, carved right into the heart of the ice cap. You literally walk right into an ice cap, and you can explore all sorts of amazing features like black bands preserved in the ice cap, which represent ancient prehistoric volcanic eruptions and the layers of ash that formed then. Another tour, another subterranean experience, but this time you follow boardwalks not into an ice cave, but into a lava cave. And you can easily do both the lava cave and the Into the Glacier tour on this holiday. I'd also highly recommend that you spend one of your days driving around the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. It really does have this most stunning coastline, a mixture of sandy beaches and black pebble beaches, sea cliffs, sea arches, blowholes, sea stacks, and then right at its tip, you have the wonderful snow-capped volcano, which was the inspiration for Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth book. As well as some beautiful coastal walks, you can take a boat trip in search of whales, dolphins, or walk on the slopes of the volcano itself. It's well and truly dormant. And from its summit, you can sometimes see right across Breiðafjörður to the West Fjords. Now, if you really want to take a self-drive off the beaten track in Iceland, head to this remote, little visited and spellbinding part of Iceland. A new 14-night self-drive from Discover the World called Iceland Backroads combines the West Fjords and the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, and then returns via Hotel Húsafell, and even includes time to drive the Golden Circle and experience both the south coast and Reykjanes Peninsula. So it's a comprehensive itinerary featuring a lot of very special sights, like this, for example. Have you ever seen a more incredible waterfall than this? It's called Dynjandi. It's in the West Fjords, and you get 7 cascades for the price of 1. This is just one of the sections of this waterfall, the largest fan-shaped part of Dynjandi waterfall in the West Fjords. Quite an amazing place. This will also make you feel giddy. Latrabjarg sea cliffs, Iceland's westernmost point, some of the tallest sea cliffs, over 400 meters high, and one of Europe's largest seabird cities. It's a top spot for puffins between May and early August, when they arrive in their thousands to nest on cliff-top burrows, and you can sit carefully on the cliff tops, and the puffins are within a few meters of where you're sitting. Other seabirds that move into the high-rise real estate of Laxabjag are guillemots, gannets, kittiwakes, falmers, razorbills, and even if you're not a keen bird watcher, this really is a natural spectacle not to be missed. You really feel like you've got away from it all, I think, if you spend a few days exploring this corner of Iceland. There are even golden sand beaches here, unlike many of the black sand beaches that you find on the south coast. But if you love the idea of West Iceland, but want to do less driving maybe, I've got another idea for you. This is Glacier Lodge. Discover the world's own 3-bedroom self-catering property on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. Now, the 3-night West Iceland escape at Glacier Lodge is perfect if you're looking for an independent, year-round short break in this spectacular region. It's just a 2-hour drive from Reykjavik. You've got fantastic hiking right on your doorstep. Some amazing beaches, cliff-top scenery to visit, and optional tours ranging from whale watching to snowmobiling on the glacier atop the volcano you can see in the background there. All of these can be pre-booked with Discover the World. Some of Iceland's most iconic sites can be found nearby, including Harry Potter's hat, famous Kirkjufell mountain. And this is the interior of Glacier Lodge. Lovely property, south-facing, with a light, open-plan design. It sleeps up to 6 people in 3 bedrooms, so it's ideal for extended family or a family holiday. It's also one of several properties in Iceland that feature and Discover the World's new Work-Away portfolio. This is a collection of bolt holes that are perfect if you want to get away and combine work and play. They all have Wi-Fi and discounts for longer stays. Discover the World have also launched a new luxury portfolio. This is a collection of bespoke itineraries featuring hand-picked high-end hotels and lodges in truly extraordinary locations. Places like Depla Farm here, a fabulous retreat in North Iceland where you can rejuvenate in the spa or explore the wilderness by sea kayak, dog sled, go heli skiing, things like that. Before we move on to the Q&As with our expert panel, I'd just like to show you 2 more holidays. Discover the World's classic Around Iceland is a 14-night self-drive, rounding up country's natural wonders, wildlife, and other highlights. If you want to see it all, this really is the holiday for you. It's a classic drive. You'll cover about 1,300 kilometers, circumnavigating the entire island on the ring road. But the itinerary has been very carefully planned to allow you to linger in some of the country's most breathtaking locations. It's not a mad dash from one overnight stop to the other. Also covering north, south, east, and west Iceland is this new 4-week itinerary. One of the things I like about Discover the World is that now that travel restrictions are easing, they're not simply focused on filling as many flights as possible to Iceland. They want to ensure travel restarts in a responsible way. And that means encouraging us to fly less and travel for longer and really savor the experience. So this month-long adventure combines stays in 4 different bases using summer houses and apartment accommodation, just like the local Icelanders do. Now, on both these holidays, you'll be able to experience an amazing range of natural wonders and adventure activities. We've already looked at many of the highlights. This could be you, for example, driving towards the mighty Vatnajökull ice cap in the south, or you could be dawdling through the East Fjords with picture-perfect villages like Seyðisfjörður here, renowned for its arts and crafts scene. In North Iceland, you could fall under the spell of Dettifoss, Europe's most powerful waterfall, 200 cubic meters of water, gushing 45 meters into this gorge every second, ground trembling beneath you, glacial water frothing, thundering like a massive cappuccino machine. This is quite an incredible sight. Then there's Lake Miða, a huge spring-fed freshwater lake up in the north with a road right around it, perfect for a lakeside circuit, touring the volcanic features such as pseudo-craters, lava tubes, geothermal springs, fresh lava fields, volcanic cones. incredible place. And for bird watchers, it's a must visit because it's one of the best places in Europe for ducks, divers, and waders. In fact, North Iceland is just an incredible wildlife destination. Seabirds breed on the wild peninsulas and offshore islands. Large numbers of whales and dolphins gather to feed in the wide bays. You can see humpbacks like these ones here, everyone's favorite. And also minke whales, large pods of whitebeak dolphins, and if you're lucky, blue whales in early summer, and orcas too. Skalfjandi Bay, Europe's whale watching capital, is one of the best spots for a boat trip. But you can also track down seals, seabirds, and other wildlife on your own. North Iceland has so much to offer that there are now 2 new touring routes, the Arctic Coast Way and the 250-kilometer long Diamond Circle. Now, just to put that in perspective, imagine driving from central London to Southampton and back, and stopping along the way to gaze at hissing fumaroles, bubbling mud pits, spot whales and dolphins and gannets, hike through lava flows, and feel the spray from colossal waterfalls misting your face. I think that kind of sums up Iceland. And what's more, all these natural wonders are free to enjoy. All you need to do is hop in your hire car and drive from one to the next. Well, I hope that's given you plenty of inspiration and confidence to consider booking a holiday to Iceland this summer. Whenever you choose to travel, the Iceland specialists at Discover the World are ready to help you plan your holiday, whether it's a self-drive this summer or a Northern Lights break in the autumn or winter. Now, I'm going to now move on to our question and answer session, and I'm delighted to welcome back our expert panel, Siley, Cathy, and Alex, who are ready to answer your questions this evening. Thank you guys for joining us. Siley, if I could start with you, I just can't help but notice the sunlight pouring in through your window there, Siley. And I know that you're up in North Iceland in a hotel at this very moment. Could you tell us a little bit about where you are and maybe give us a little sneak peek out of your window there?
Yeah, I'm in the north of Iceland in Siglufjörður at Hotel Siglo. So I'm going to try to see if I can give you the view out of my hotel room. We have some boats in the harbor there. And there is a really nice cafe. The red building there in the distance was barely visible. The red and yellow buildings. It's, yeah, stunningly beautiful. And we have beautiful weather at the moment as well. So
fantastic. Well, we're pretty jealous there, although our weather has been improving, but it hasn't been a great spring so far. But I'm glad you've got some great weather up there. Now, Siley, we've been having lots of questions coming in about the volcano. So maybe if I could start with you by asking, you've been to the eruption site. What is it like to actually stand there for real? And can you tell us what the latest is on the eruption?
The latest on the eruption is that it's still ongoing and it seems to be going even stronger. How long it will go, we have no idea, but it looks like it's going to last for a long, long time. What a long, long time means is still also quite impossible. It could impossible to answer. It could cool down and then start again. It could keep on like this for years. It could stop in the next 2 weeks. It's almost impossible to predict it. But still, if it would stop in the next 2 weeks, I have to remind you that Discover the World was doing tours up to the crater of Eyjafjallajökull for more than 5 years, at least after the eruption, and we were barbecuing sausages on the hot lava there 6 years after the eruption. And that was on the site where we were doing that, that's way less lava than what we have there. So I'm pretty sure that this will be a hot spot for a very, very long time.
And do you need a guide to accompany you to the eruption site, Siley, or can you just go on your own?
You can go on your own. You can walk there on your own. It's very clear the path that you're going on. It's, yeah, a lot of Icelanders are going there as well. It's not heavy traffic there, but you can still, it's very visible where to go and how to do. But of course, there's a great advantage to have a guide with you, because that brings out, like, we can tell you a bit more about it. We know where the best spots are. We know how to walk around
Absolutely.
If you are thinking about hiking there yourself, I would just tell you to try to get some good advices before, just to know how the conditions are on the trail, and the weather, of course. You want to think about that because you can be pretty far away from your weather. Discover the World is also offering super deep excursion around the Reykjanes Peninsula with South Coast Adventure that will lead you with our guides to the eruption site. So I would, of course, for obvious reasons, I would always recommend that. That's the best. That way you get more out of it. But it's good fun to walk. I mean, you have to see a volcano. You can do it 2 or 3 times while you are in Iceland, especially if you're doing more than 3 days. Then you have to go for 4 times at least, I would say.
That's brilliant. I can definitely vouch for the extra value you get out of a Super Jeep tour with the guides. I mean, whenever I've done a Super Jeep tour in Iceland, the guides just add that extra element. They've got the local knowledge. They tell you local stories. They're fantastic characters. And you get this sort of extra layer of experience. So yes, I definitely recommend the Super Jeep tours there. That sounds brilliant. And of course, what a fantastic opportunity to visit that new eruption site there, which is going to be fascinating for many years to come. Cathy, welcome, Cathy. Of course, hiking is another great way of exploring Iceland. Whether you want just a short stroll from the car to a nearby waterfall or a full day's trek in the wilderness. Now, Cathy, you've been guiding hiking tours for Discover the World for many years now, and it really is one of Europe's top hiking destinations, isn't it?
Yes, I'd say so. And what's interesting is that, even if you're going as a normal tourist and doing a fly drive trip, you're going to find as you travel around Iceland that a lot of the places of interest, the natural wonders, you actually have to walk a little bit to get there. So by the end of the day, you'll find that you've actually done quite a lot of walking. But, if you're the kind of person that wants a full day hike, then Iceland's got plenty of options for you. Most of the best laid out hiking trails are found inside the national parks and conservation areas. So you'll find proper marked walking trails, you'll find hiking maps, and you'll get good advice from the rangers. So I would recommend, if you're hoping to do several full day hikes, that you plan that around some of the national parks. And I suppose, Iceland doesn't have the equivalent of the UK's wonderful hiking maps. And in Iceland, the hiking maps have to be read with a little bit of caution, some of them. Icelanders are very enthusiastic about marking walking trails that don't actually exist, but they are where somebody thought, well, I'm sure this could be a good place to walk. So there's no substitute for local advice. So wherever you go, if you're planning to head off into the wilderness, and great to do that, but just check what the condition of the trail is, how easy it is, and make sure, of course, that you're properly equipped, that you've got the good weather, proper weather gear for wet, windy conditions as well as sunshine, and obviously really good hiking shoes or boots, preferably, that give you the ankle support. In Iceland, the terrain is quite uneven underfoot. You might find yourself walking over stony ground with small rocks, or over rugged lava, through sand. So hiking boots are really essential for that. I would also just kind of emphasize that the weather is incredibly changeable. So you can expect to have 4 seasons in a day, and you're going to need to make sure that you're equipped for that. And if you're really going somewhere a little bit adventurous, then it's always a good idea to let somebody know where you're going and what time you're planning to come back, just for safety reasons. But most of the hiking trails in the national parks are really well set out, and they're just marvelous. You're going to just see Iceland's scenery unfold in one chapter following another. And by the end of the day, you'll be tired, but you'll also be totally wowed by what you've seen and experienced. So Iceland on foot is a fantastic experience, but go prepared. if you fancy doing it with a guide, then there's plenty of options for that. So you can do 1-day guided walks, or you can do 7-day fully supported guided treks where you're just carrying a day pack. And you can also do independent trips through Discover the World. So we have a fly, drive and hike package, which is based around car hire and pre-booked accommodation, but the accommodation is near to really good locations for hiking, and we'll supply you with the suggestions for hiking routes and things. And of course, if you travel with Discover the World, the greatest bonus that I think you get is the wonderful app, which is like a digital traveling guide that has suggested hiking routes and what you can expect to see and do along the way. So I think that maybe answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you made me want to get my hiking boots out of the cupboard. That's fantastic. Thanks, Cathy. And I think the other wonderful thing is at the other end of the scale, Iceland is so great if you just want to, have a self-drive holiday, but so many of those natural wonders are just a short, easy stroll from the ring road. I mean, that Seljalandsfoss waterfall, for example, you pull off the road and it's just a short walk and you're right in front of the waterfall. It's the same as Skogafoss. It's the same as some of the black sand beaches and the lava flows. So if you're not full-on hiker, you don't want to go out for the whole day, for example, you can just sort of put together a series of little strolls, really, which is wonderful. That's brilliant. Thanks, Cathy. The Northern Lights is another thing that's right near the top of a lot of people's wish list, of course, when they go to Iceland. Now, Alex, you're known as a bit of a lucky charm when it comes to seeing the Northern Lights, seeing the Aurora Borealis. So everybody here this evening wants to know your top tips, please.
I think top tip is invite me to come along with you, and you might get the guarantee, possibly. But I've been very lucky and fortunate, and one of my top tips for myself is to relax a bit about it. Don't stress and constantly look at the weather and things like that. Things will change all the time out there. And I'd always like to go to properties, obviously, that are outside of the city, where you've got the ability where they can actually give you a wake-up call. That's always a great help. Someone like Husafell, for example, I arrived there once, checked in, then at 8 o'clock in the evening, phone call, Northern Lights outside. Got into bed at midnight, phone call, Northern Lights are outside. So this is a great opportunity, because also that call's going to wake you up also if they came out in the early hours of the morning as well. But if you want to stay up and look at the sky, because it is an incredible place to marvel at the stars and all the things that you can see there, especially like someone like Hotel Ranga's great for that. I sometimes actually went for a little bit of an afternoon nap. If I've been out for the day doing some hiking, like Cathy suggested, seeing some of the beautiful places, just a little 1 or 2 hours sleep doesn't go too far. I mean, you can stay up a bit later staring at the sky and hoping possibly to get something. You mentioned earlier, Will, about the app that also has the Aurora, forecast and things like that. And so, yeah, those would be some of my top tips on there. But also just remember that there's no guarantee, but make sure you focus on all the other wonderful things that you can get up to whilst you're out there.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Alex. And one of the wonderful things is Wales. And we've had a question, Cathy, from a listener who's interested in seeing the Northern Lights and whales and dolphins. So Alex just told us about the Northern Lights, but you actually guide a Discover the World trip that combines orca watching with Northern Lights watching, which sounds a bit greedy, but too good to be true, surely.
Yeah, it is an amazing combination. And it was something that we came up with, I think, in 2012. We started when orcas unexpectedly began to appear in the calm waters around the town of Grundarfjörður. And so we were quick to put together a holiday that allowed people to come and see the orcas, going out on a boat for up to 3 hours to spend time with these magnificent animals. And then in the evening, we'd drag people out of their beds at midnight to go and look for the Northern Lights. And somehow it worked. It was a magical combination. And it's still one of our most popular winter escorted trips. It's a 4-night, 3-day trip that includes not only 2 whale watching trips, but also ample northern lights viewing, subject to weather, subject to solar activity, and then a sightseeing tour around the peninsula as well. And we pick you up at the airport and deliver you back again at the end of it. And, you know, it's just one of those funny things that works. And often people say, yeah, we like the Northern Lights, and, you know, the orcas were amazing. But they said the thing we really loved was the weather. And it's just incredible. People love being bashed around by the wind and rain. And, you know, you can't control the weather. That's the one thing that you just take it as it comes. But it's often the weather that leaves that really special experience, impression on people. So I definitely encourage people to have a look at that trip. It's a really nice little winter escape. We do it in March. There's 4 departures during March, one each week, and it's in Wales, but also towards the equinox, so you've got good chances of increased solar activity that produces the solar flares that result in the Northern Lights showing. But Wales is seen around Iceland in all different areas, and particularly in the north of the island. And so you can see humpback whales and blue whales up there. Snæfellsnes in the west is a great place not only for orcas, but you can also in early summer see sperm whales and humpback whales as well. So May, June, July are great times to see a variety of different species.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Cathy. It is a wonderful trip as well. And again, one of those trips where superb guides like yourself make a brilliant difference and just sort of elevate it to something really quite special. So, of course, Northern Lights is a phenomenon that's visible roughly between the autumn and spring equinoxes. But looking back to summer, Siley, we're now approaching midnight sun season. We've experienced a foretaste of it outside your hotel window there, which was very, very nice indeed. But of course, that's also a time when Iceland's rugged interior opens up and becomes accessible to four-wheel drive users. So can you tell us a little bit about the amazing adventures you can have on your Super Jeep tours and on four-wheel drive vehicles when you venture into the interior?
Sure. What you probably don't realize is that the sun is going to be here until like 11:30. This window is going to stay like that until midnight almost, because we are getting into the season where we get endless daylight. Going into the interior of Iceland is, of course, well, for me at least, it's the true Iceland experience. In there, you get to see just a completely different perspective of the island itself. It's all there is the old volcanic part of the island. The island itself isn't that old, so we don't really have any old volcanoes. But that area is really, truly authentic Iceland. And even for me, it's a breathtaking experience to get in there every time, because it is just undescribable, really, what there is to see there. It's really rugged, it's raw, it's untamed, and it changes as you cut a corner. So for us, of course, we do a lot of trips for Discover the World. We go into Landmannalaugar, which is a geothermal hot spring in the interior of Iceland. On that trip, we usually go around few volcanoes and through lava fields and old craters, and we go off completely the beaten track. There are other ways to get into Landmannalaugar. You could even self-drive if you have your own Land Cruiser. That's easy. But then, of course, you just take one road in and out. While we are doing it, of course, with the experience that you get on a Super Jeep is completely different, because we can go into areas that you can't go into on regular car. And another thing that happens as well on the Super Jeeps, what makes them special is, of course, as others mentioned before me, it's the guides. It's the way it is. But of course, in there as well, you have comfort, and we can go way faster through. So you're also saving time by doing a Super Jeep excursion, because you go over way more area. Þórsmörk, of course, is my personal favorite area. You already showed 2 or 3 pictures in the slideshow earlier, and in there you get to see all the different types of what it is that makes Iceland and just the interior of Iceland so extra special.
Fantastic. It is a remarkable, otherworldly place. It is something that everyone should experience when they go there. And even if you haven't got your own 4-wheel drive vehicle, then yes, booking a day trip with South Coast Adventure, one of the Super Jeep tours, is brilliant, because you do get that wonderful experience exploring the interior. Alex, if I could come to you next, we had a question in from a viewer about accommodation. Are you finding that all accommodation is booked up for summer now that Iceland is one of the few countries to go on the green list?
Great question. Yeah, so of course it is very busy because Iceland is on the green list and there's a lot of excitement going across there. Plus the added bonus of the volcano and getting the people out there this summer who weren't able to go last summer. But the team worked very hard in checking the availability, working with the properties that we have allocation with. And one way or another, we'll find if your first choice hotel is not available, then we look at the alternatives that we find. We've got a very experienced team with a lot of knowledge around Iceland. We can rejig itineraries and make it work for you. So we do get to check everything as best that we can. And if something comes up with a challenge, we'll find a way to work a way around it basically on there.
Brilliant.
But it is guaranteed to, if you're thinking about it, give us a call.
Yeah. Better to avoid disappointment. Thanks, Alex. Cathy, we've had a question in from someone who's been to Iceland before. We did say one trip was never enough. They say we've done the Golden Circle and Blue Lagoon on our first trip. What would you focus on for a second trip, say for 3 to 7 days?
Right. So if you've got 3 to 7 days, you could do 1 or 2 different areas that are not too far from Reykjavik. So I would recommend the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, which I think, Will, you talked quite a bit about. That's a really good option. There's some nice hotels, amazing coastline. You can do whale watching trips. You can also go along the south coast. So as far, probably in 7 days, you could get as far as the iceberg lagoon, Jökulsárlón, which is, I think, one of Iceland's most spectacular scenes. And then all the black sand beaches along the coast, the waterfalls, you can include all of that. Plus Skaftafell National Park, which is a really good area for scenery. You can get close up to the glaciers, and you can also do guided walks on the glaciers. So it's kind of all about the ice there. So those would be, I think, my recommendations. So if you've got 3 days, you could go to Snæfellsnes. If you've got 7 days, you could get as far as Jökulsárlón, and possibly include part of Snæfellsnes as well within a 7-day framework.
Brilliant. Yeah, that sounds good advice there. Very good suggestions. I'm just going to have a look at the questions that are coming in from everyone. Thank you once again for sending them in. Siley, we've had a few questions about geothermal bathing, one of the favourite pastimes in Iceland. We looked at Blue Lagoon and the new Sky Lagoon. Which are the best ones to visit, do you think? What are your favourites? Where would you recommend?
I have to admit, I haven't been to the Sky Lagoon yet, but I've seen brilliant photos of it. It looks fabulous. There are quite a few. The Mývatn baths in the north, they're also quite good. Of course, the Blue Lagoon is the Blue Lagoon, and it's almost one of the wonders of the world. So you have to bear that. You have to keep that in mind. It's really truly something. And then, of course, it's a new one called Krauma, not far away from Hotel Húsafell. And also in Hotel Húsafell, you have, there it goes. I was just wondering about that. I haven't been speaking English for all winter, so I'm trying to get it back now. It's been for 2 weeks that I've been trying to practice my English while going on tour, so it's kind of lost. So maybe Alex will have to help me out on that. It's the Giljaböðin, canyon bath or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about right to me. I'll go with that.
No, it's next to Hotel Husafell. Yeah.
Yeah, canyon baths.
Then, of course, it's really Pistiraki, a very beautiful place called Seljavallalaug. It's an old swimming pool between Skógafoss and Seljalandsfoss on the south coast. That would be my personal favorite, but it's kind of hard to convince people to jump into it because it looks really, well, it's cold in the beginning. It's not really 38 degrees. It's closer to like 30 maybe, but it's still worth to do the walk up there just for the photos.
Brilliant, thank you. And of course, I don't know if you mentioned the secret lagoon on the Golden Circle.
Oh yeah, sorry, of
That's
course.
a good one, isn't it?
The secret lagoon in the Golden Circle is brilliant.
Yeah. Fantastic. You're never very far from a hot tub or a geothermal pool. It's one of the special treats, especially after a long day's hike. Hey, Cathy. Cathy, we've had a question from someone about the hiking again. I can just find that. Good map for the Highlands. Recommend a good hiking map for the Highlands. We have a 4-wheel drive and we'll have proper hiking kit. Someone sounds like they're planning a full-on adventure there. Can you recommend a good map?
There tends not to be just one map for the whole Highland area. So you probably need to pick up maps at several different points on the journey through the Highlands. So there, any of Iceland's national parks or conservation areas will produce its own little leaflets with a map with hiking routes marked on it. So the best thing is to, if you're traveling through the Highlands, to go stop off at one of the mountain huts, and there you'll find the wardens, and they'll sell you these little maps, leaflets with hiking routes. So, for example, for the Askja region, you'll have a small hiking map for that area. For the area around on the Sprengisandur route, there's a mountain hut there, and they'll also have a small leaflet. For the Landmannalauga area, the same thing. You'll have a leaflet, and I think there's actually quite a sophisticated map that you can purchase as well, with a lot of the different hiking trails in that area. Similarly for the Fagradalsfjall area on the Kjóla route. So all of those routes have these mountain huts where you can stop and you can get information. And the Kjóla route, you also have one of my favorite hot pools at Fagradalsfjall, where you can, as well as getting information and go for a hike, you can also have a soak in a lovely hot tub there.
Brilliant. Thanks, Cathy. Alex, someone's asked the question, self-drive's not possible for them. So they'd be interested to know when you have guided holidays available again. Obviously, that's something that Discover the World also do. We focus a lot on self-drive this evening, but we have a wide range of escorted tours too. Cathy mentioned Orcas and Aurora, but there are others as well out there. And do you know what the latest is on them?
Yeah, so we do have, if you're looking at Northern Lights, then we've got the Northern Lights special, which has been tried and tested one that I've done myself, and it's been going for over 10 years now. Really popular one that goes to Hotel Ranga for a couple of nights in the Northern Lights Inn, focuses on all the key kind of places and locations in the south. If you're looking to go away in the summer or autumn of those times, we do a tour through a company called GJ Travel, who do they do a full set kind of around Iceland, so like a week going all the way around Iceland. So that's been a really popular one there, and they even do a grand tour one as well, where they expand and go over those places. So certainly if there's an interest of doing an escorted tour, do get in touch with us and we can find the right people to match what you're looking for with that. So yeah, they are operating, but obviously as things start to build up and warm up again after everything that's gone on, it's a slow process, but there are some that are beginning to operate now, heading into July and onwards.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Another question for you, actually, Alex. Quite a lot of interest in the north part of Iceland. We touched on it a little bit at the end of the presentation, the sort of northern part of Iceland. Someone's asked, what would you recommend to see, say, from Hoffen upwards? I guess they're talking about going round up into the north there from the south coast on a trip.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, because you're going to head over to the east as well, and that's a really, really beautiful area. It's one of my favorite parts. It's also where Fortitude was filmed. So anybody who's watched that completely bonkers program, that you'll notice a lot of places from the set there. But it's a really stunning area. You've got Seyðisfjörður there, which is of course is where Trapped is supposedly based, but in fact it gets filmed up where Sali is now. So that's a beautiful place to go across and do some hiking and walking there. So going up around Deglistad there, and then going to Mývatn, where you've got the nature baths and you've got Dedafoss, etc. So in between, heading from from Hub and all the way up to the north, there's actually some really beautiful pockets and areas to go and explore. And it is, I think it's where most of the trees are around over that side as well. So if you ever wonder where all the trees are hiding in Iceland, they're over on the east on that side. So those would be my recommendations, but definitely worth looking at. Don't overlook the east. It's one of the most beautiful parts in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And of course, Sally, you're up in Siglufjörður at the moment. You're right at the heart of the new Arctic Coast Way there, aren't you? And that wonderful new touring route that links up all the peninsulas and some of the highlights there. In that little area that you are, what are the main sort of things that you would recommend doing if people were based in the hotel where you're sitting now?
In here, there are quite a lot of hiking, actually. Not very well known, as Cathy was telling earlier. Icelanders are really, we're quite relaxed about hiking. So if it's ever been hiked, there is a hiking trail there, but it's kind of impossible to find it. But you might find a sheep trail that you could follow. So usually when you are in an area like this, you would go to the hotel lobby to get recommendations, or they will have their own maps for it. In this area now, of course, is heli skiing. It's the main attraction at the moment. But whale watching out from Dalvík, the beer baths it's on the way to Akureyri. I've forgotten where it is, but in our Skógarströnd, doesn't translate that well. So there are plenty of things that you can do out here in the north. Mainly, of course, when you go out and when you start to drive and when you start to do it, it's all the things that you see by the side of the road. It's the adventure that you stop somewhere because you spotted a waterfall, or you walk up there. That's the main adventure. So it makes it a bit difficult to try to explain to people exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. I could never plan an Iceland visit for a friend. It would never work. I admire what Discover the World has been doing, because I would just just go there and figure it out. And you always have to have a little, in my opinion at least, you always have to have a little extra time to do that. I love the Discover the World app. I have seen what was before the app, and I'm going to download the app afterwards, because I think it will come in very handy for me. There's a lot of things that I could use from there.
Oh, thank you, Sally. Well, if it's going to help a local person like you, then that's a good endorsement for it.
It will.
That's brilliant. Well, I think we're almost out of time, I'm afraid. I'm sorry we haven't been able to answer everyone's questions, but just a reminder that we will be following up this webinar with an email to cover everything and to summarize everything that's been covered. Well, I really hope that you've all enjoyed this evening and found inspiration, information, and also reassurance for planning your trip to Iceland, whether you're thinking of getting away as soon as possible this summer, or even thinking ahead to 2022. Please don't forget that Discover the World's flexibility promise gives you that all-important peace of mind and financial security. If you have any questions about visiting Iceland, please do call Discover the World, speak to the leading experts in the business. Alex and his team know the place inside out, and they can really tailor-make your holiday to suit your exact requirements, ages, your budget, your timescale, and so on. And of course, it's now a simple matter just to arrange that video appointment with them if you want to. So just to finish off, I'd like to say a massive thank you to our expert panel, Sally from Iceland, enjoying the sunshine there. Cathy, thank you so much. and Alex too, for shining a light on this incredible destination. And a special thank you to you, our viewers too, for joining us this evening. Keep safe, happy travels, and look forward to seeing you very soon. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Goodbye.